What's up, guys? It's your girl Amk Bamra here with your official chart show compiled by the official charts company. And on today's episode of the chart show, obviously we're going to count down some amazing songs, but I have a very special guest. His drip is insane and we all love his chain. Guys, I am joined by Big Bird. I don't need to say his name because let's be honest, you all know who he is. He's wearing an amazing outfit. Welcome to the UK. How are
Thank
you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. So a question we all have for you is, how did the French Montana little collab come about? How did that all happen? And how is it working with him?
Yeah, so that happened. I had a mutual friend actually that knew him, and he reached out to get some music, some beats for French. So he sent me his email, and then I just sent him like a bunch of beats, and then he selected one beat. And I mean, I found out once like the song was out, like on their album, and then that's how I knew that that song came out. And then after that, we did like I think maybe 3, 4, 5 more tracks, and I still have more songs coming out with them as well. So I'm still in touch with them. So it was good, man. It was a blessing. That was my first like big break in the hip hop industry.
So you've worked with the person I grew up wanting to be, Jazzy B. How was that for you?
I mean, it was an amazing experience. Like, I think we all wanted to be, Jazzy B growing up because, his style, his sense of style, you know what I mean? Like, his drip,
his swag.
His swag.
His
like,
chains.
His chains as well. And also, like, he's a crazy vocalist. You know, he's made so many, like, dope tracks, like, hit songs, So me linking up with him was a blessing again. It was funny because when I linked up with him, it was also through like one of my relatives that live in Punjab in Garshankar. They also do music, Jesse Brothers. So it just so happened I linked up with Jesse Brothers in the studio, and he happened to be coming the same time at the studio to record vocals for my song, which I was not aware of at that time. And then he's like, "Yo, Jazzy's coming too." I'm like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Oh, that's crazy!" Like, okay, let's get it. You know what I mean? So. It was crazy how it just came together because as a kid and a fan of him, like, I met him as a kid too. Like, I think I took a picture with him as a kid or got like his signature or something. So to be able to, being a fan of him and then actually being able to work with him, I think that's pretty sick.
Okay, you've made countless hits with Sidhu Moosewala. What was that dynamic like, and what was it like working with him?
It was really good actually. It was a very easy artist to work with. He would come into the studio. We would lay down vocals in like 1 or 2 takes. You know what I mean? And the good thing about it was like he gave me the freedom to like do what I wanted as a music producer. You know what I mean? So that dynamic worked because I feel like, as a music producer, like when you're constricted by certain limitations, like you can't fully bring out your full potential. But he didn't have any limitations or restrictions. Like he let me just do my thing. You know what I mean? So that's why I felt like we made like all these great songs together, because he did his thing as a lyricist, as a vocalist, which he was amazing. You know what I mean? Like he's still amazing. So and then me getting to do what I do best, and you know what I mean? Like that's why that's why we're here.
I have a question for you. At the Brit Asia 2019 Awards, PBX won Best Album.
Wow.
How did that feel when you found that out?
It felt amazing actually, because I think that's the first time that I've been part of something that's won an award. So it's always great to see like the fans appreciating our work, and like that's what actually keeps us going. Like we're doing this for our fans, right? So it felt amazing. I wish I was there as well, like at the awards. That would have been like a cool experience. But I mean, nonetheless, like it was an amazing time.
Brown Boys, it's a household name, but I want to know, why did you pick that name?
Well, if you look at our skin colors, right, I think we're brown. So you know what I mean. Like, well, that was part of it actually. So originally, how we came up with it was so in Canada, like our highest denomination of our currency. It used to be $1,000 bill, but we got rid of that. So now it's a $100 bill, and the color of that is brown. So when you're getting money and you're being successful, like so when you have a bunch of $100 bills together, like they call that brown boys. You know what I mean? So getting money at the same time, and then it kind of represented us and our culture, because that was my whole thing coming up. Was I wanted to represent for us because I felt like there wasn't enough representation of us, or it was always kind of more in a funny way. You know what I mean? Like even in the cartoons, like with the Simpsons and all that kind of stuff, like we were always like the funny character, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, that's not what we're about. So I wanted to kind of highlight that and elevate that. Like no, like we do our thing too. So Brown Boys was that name that felt like it could be this cool thing that like everybody could kind of represent. So it was a mix of like two different ideas, and then I think it really worked well, and you know
Well, that's amazing. And fun fact, I actually call myself a brown boy quite often.
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Okay, everyone probably wants to know your music influences growing up.
Um, my biggest influence was Diplomats, Dipset, which was a group from Harlem, from New York. So that consisted of Cameron, goes Killer Cam, Jim Jones, Joel Santana. So when I was in high school and stuff, so I was really listening to their music, and they really influenced me for my even for my chains, like Jazzy B as well, but from the hip hop side, like they were like trendsetters in the hip hop movement, whether it was style sense, music sense, like so the baggy clothes, like wearing pink, when we say what's good, like this was all from them. They started all of this, like what's really good, you know what I mean? So I grew up listening to them, and those were my biggest influences, even music wise. Like when I heard like the music, the beats where they do a lot of sampling with the hip hop, like that's what actually got me into music. I'm like, oh, I really want to make music. Like, how do I do it? You know what I mean? Yeah. So before you get into the charts, one more point that I had to make was, so me being influenced by these guys, I recently got to actually even work with Jim Jones on one of our songs. It was a Punjabi song, like a Punjabi hook actually with Tarna on the hook, and then Jim Jones was like rapping on the song. Ali Culture was on it, and even Blamo was on the song, and it was called Chasing M's. So for that to come full circle, like again, it's just a blessing. Like sometimes I don't even know how it just comes to be, but you know what I mean. And then even previously to that, we also worked with Juicy J on a song. We had Big Boy Deep
Damn.
on the hook as well, and that was called All Winners.
Okay, so you had a very heavy mainstream influence, obviously growing up. But I want to know what made you decide to mash up mainstream and Punjabi music together and give us what you give us now.
Um, I kind of think it was gonna happen naturally, just because when I was like really really young, like when I was just starting school, like I think it's kindergarten or grade one, my uncle had actually gave me a Walkman, and at that time I wasn't speaking English fluently. Like we spoke Punjabi at home, so I was having a hard time like communicating with like other kids and stuff like that. So I had this Walkman, and then I had he also had given me like tapes, like cassette tapes, where it'd be like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, Master Sleem, or even like later, a little bit later on, like Malkit Singh, like Bali Sagu, like all these influences. So I would be in recess just listening to music. I didn't totally understand at that time like the lyrics, but the music, the hicks, the alaps, like that was constantly being like driven like into me as a kid. So then growing up and being influenced by more like hip hop side, I think it was around like high school time towards the end where I started taking Punjabi songs and then taking hip hop instrumentals and kind of like fusing them together, like like as a DJ would. So I started doing that, like remixes, and then after that I was like, yo, how do I make my own beats? Like I'm taking other people's instrumentals and fusing it, but how do I make my own? And that's when I started like diving into like the production side of it. So, but at that time I was like kind of like confused, or I wasn't sure like how do I make Punjabi music? Like I was listening to it, but like I knew how to do the hip hop side, but I was kind of confused about like with the folk instruments, like with the sarangi or the algoze, or you know what I mean? Like how does, like, because I couldn't play that, you know what I mean? So I didn't know that it was just you can get somebody to play that for you, and have it on your song. So when I figured that part of it, and then it was just go time from there.
Okay, so we've learned a bit more about the influences obviously you had growing up, but I want to know about the struggles you faced growing up. Obviously, there must have been a few, I assume.
Right. So basically, like as a kid, like I mentioned, like I only spoke Punjabi at home, and I had troubles with English and stuff. So there was bullying and also racism as well growing up. And even in high school and stuff, just because of my influence from hip hop, like I dressed the way I dressed, but like other people like kind of frowned on it, like why is he dressing like this? Why is he talking like this? Why is he moving like this? Like that's what I know. Like that's me. You know what I mean? I wasn't pretending to be somebody that I'm not. That was me. And so even in high school, like here and there I would get bullied and stuff just because I was new to the area, new to a school, because I had recently moved from another area. And basically just that's where I got my fire. Just in my head I was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure one day that I'm gonna make my name worldwide known, like, and the people that were making fun of me or bullying me, like they'll tell other people like, I know this guy, I went to school with this guy. So that's where my fire, my drive came in, and I still have that same drive, and I still haven't taken the foot off the gas.
And before the break, we were talking about obviously bullying, the struggles when you were growing up. But I want to know, how do you deal with the negativity now that you get on the internet or even in person potentially?
I mean, in person, I haven't really encountered much negativity. It's mostly just online. And I mean, the simplest and best way to deal with it is just simply ignore it. You know what I mean? So I see all the negativity, but like you gotta rise above, and I don't let that stuff get to me. You know what I mean?
And do you feel like it's ever trying to limit your creativity or what you're doing as a producer?
I mean, people are trying, obviously, trying to blackball me and what have you. But you know what I mean? You just gotta keep pushing through, and yeah, like like no one can stop anything that's written for you. You know what I mean? So you just gotta, like I said, you gotta rise above and just push through the hate, the negativity, and just have your mind focused on your goals that you want to accomplish. And yeah, we good.
Okay, you are obviously a pioneer in Desi hip hop, it's no doubt, but do you feel the pressure of constantly just producing hit after hit after hit and it just having to be better than the one before?
I mean, that is definitely a struggle. But the way I look at it is I'm gonna try to do my best, obviously, right? So people's music tastes or vibes are changing constantly. We have so many different types of genres that are also being influenced into the Punjabi side. But thing with me is like I try to stay true to myself and my sound. So I stick with that, and I obviously try to do the best that I can, and giving chances to like new artists as well, because there's a lot of talent out there as well. So it's okay to be a fan of artists and stuff like that, but I don't think we should be like always fixated to one thing per se. Like there's so many other like newcomers and artists that I feel like should be given a chance, the platform and stuff. So I try to make the best possible songs like every single time that I can, whether the fans like it or they don't. That's up to them, right? But I mean, for me, I give it my 110% every time.
Okay, this is your first time in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Why did it take so long for you to come down? We've all been waiting for you to come down, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, I do have family out here as well, but I guess I was just waiting for the right time, the right moment where it felt, it felt good, it felt right. Because I just been busy working the whole time, so it's kind of hard for me to, step away from that. But I felt like now was like the right time for me to get out there and meet with fans like that are in UK or wherever else. I feel like I need to build that. You know what I mean, or to have that experience with them.
Okay, we want to know the secrets to the brown boy flavor, the process, the structure. How do you create these bangers after bangers? What's your like mindset while you do this?
I mean, to be honest, like I don't know even myself how it comes to be, but what I do know is if I like the vocals, right? Mostly I like folk composition type of vocals because I always like to fuse the folk and the hip hop together. But because of my influences from hip hop, it has to have like a crazy like drum line, a heavy like bass. More my sound is more of like a darker type of sound. And the main thing too is having like a unique sounding melody, like something that like catches your ear, that make it so the music like you can hear it without the vocals, and something that you want to play over and over again, like something catchy, something simple. Because with me is I don't try to complicate nothing. Like the more simpler it is, the better it is, like a unique kind of sound that catches your ear. So those are some of the, secrets I could say of the Brown Boys flavor.
Okay, I know you've worked with countless artists who are amazing, but my question to you is, would you ever revive a classic song? So someone like Jamgila or Sony Pabla or Kuldeep Manik, like would you take their vocals and add your little brown boy flavor to it?
I wouldn't mind doing something like that as long as, like I get the rights to them, obviously. But in addition to that, like in my music, because these guys are also my influences, like Chamkila, Kuldeep Manik, like I love their music, you can play them anytime. What I try to do is, even for example, a song that I did with Tarna, it was called Gurti. We actually sampled like the Tumbi from the song Kurti Satrangri, I believe.
wow.
So like it was like you get that Chamkila vibe, but with the hip hop vibe as well. And then he kind of sang it in a similar kind of composition. So that song actually did really well. And, it still plays at parties and stuff now. So anytime you play that song, like, the dance floor goes crazy.
Okay, a fear in this industry is that it's actually not sustainable income wise. And a lot of people have that fear. But how did you kind of overcome that and make it sustainable?
So basically, like, I didn't have too many good relationships with like record labels and stuff because they want to undervalue you and whatnot, and not really pay you at what you're worth and stuff. So basically that's why I created Brown Boys Records, right? It is sustainable now. The main thing is you got to be able to know how to brand yourself, right? That's the key. Like, how do you brand yourself? How do you market yourself? And the main thing on top of that is you, like, if your music has quality and people really like your music and stuff, right? So we have streaming now, we have YouTube royalties. So there's a bunch of different ways that we make money off of music, right? So it is definitely sustainable now, but it just depends, like, how, I guess, big you are, how much of an influence you have, or what's your impact, right? So if you have a good following and people really like your music, it is sustainable, but you got to work towards that.
The next question I have for you is, there's a lot of mainstream artists that actually start up their own business ventures. You're one of the first Punjabi artists to do this, so tell us a bit more about your new business.
Well, I have the bottle right here. This is Brown Boys vodka, and right now it's just available in Canada right now, but it will be in the States and UK eventually as well. This came about pretty crazy actually. I actually reached out to Manjeet Minhas. She's one of the dragons on Dragon's Den. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that show, but so I actually reached out to her like a few years ago, telling her that I had this idea that I wanted to have my own liquor brand, and if it was possible. So, I spoke to her. We had some meetings, and also with Ravinder Minhas. So they own Minhas Distillery. It's in Calgary, their main, and then this one's from Wisconsin in the States. So, I had a chat with them a few times, a few meetings, and, we built a good relationship, and they wanted to invest in me. So just having them on my side as partners, like, it's a blessing, and like, Brown Boys vodka now.
Okay, so one of the last few questions I have for you is, how important do you think it is for us, but especially you, to preserve the culture and Punjabi language now?
I mean, I think it's like one of the biggest things, right? As we all know or may not know, like, if once we lose our language, we're gonna lose our culture and everything that comes with it. So that was something my dad had actually told me. He's like, yo, make sure tu kadi Punjabi na pulli, right? Like, yes, I don't know how to read or write Punjabi, but I can definitely understand and speak it, right? And I feel like music is like one of the main ways that we can preserve that culture, right? Because of the singing in Punjabi, when there's certain words, even for myself, like, sometimes there's words that I don't even know, you know what I mean? And I have to ask the artist, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? So it keeps that, like, knowledge going, like, oh, this is what this means. And I feel like that's like the most important thing, especially for like the younger generations.
Guys, we're running out of time and I have so many more questions, and obviously you touched on the subject of preserving the culture. So what would your advice be, or how can we help the talent that's out there right now?
I would say my best advice is like staying true to yourself, and not, I mean, it's okay to get influence from other people, but try to like make your own path. Don't try to go on the same path as somebody else. I feel like a lot of people do this child kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I try to stay away from that, right? Like the best thing is like be a leader, don't be a follower. You know what I mean? And just stick to it pretty much. You know what I mean? Like if you really want to make it somewhere in life, they say, you know, it takes 10 years. You could be an overnight hit, but how long does that last?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what is it, 10,000 hours you got to put in, or 10 years? So you got to be consistent, and like it has to be something that you really, really want. It can't be just like, oh, so-and-so is doing it, I'm going to do it too. Not like that. You know what I mean? And that goes for like anything really. So, and yeah, like to provide that, or for us to be able to provide a platform for new artists. Like we're always here to help. You know what I mean? Any new talent that's there that wants music or any sort of help or advice, like we're always here to guide them as best as we can from our experiences.
Guys, thank you so much for letting me count down this week's chart. Big Bird has been making me very jealous with his chain this whole episode, so maybe we'll have to get me one. But guys, I'll catch you next episode.